I don't know if I'd feel comfortable doing a cover shoot with a baby alligator on a leash.
888-957-9570. Brock Purdy in concussion protocol. Will he play? Does he have enough time to clear concussion protocol? Here's Shanahan.
Does he have enough time to clear protocol in order to be available for the game on Sunday?
Oh, yeah, he does have enough time. It's got to go through the process.
It's got to go through the process. Are we out on trusting Shanahan to keep these guys healthy now?
Oh, I didn't even consider that.
Christian McCaffrey played.
I mean, it is the NFL.
It is the NFL. Now we got Sam Darnold. Now we have Sam Darnold.
Are you surprised? Like, not that Brock got hurt or whatever, but just surprised overall, independent of Brock, Darnold's playing before week 8. Probably.
I can't believe. We're going to get to David Lombardi right now. I can't believe Shenny threw Wilks under the bus like that at the point.
Why?
That was just why. They
should have gave up more points, but the defense had a great stop at the goal line.
Wilks don't get credit for that.
And they missed a field goal.
He only gets the blame when it goes wrong. He doesn't get credit for when they make a good play or have a good coverage. Wilks don't get credit for that.
Well, there's situational, totality. I would say that third down have not been good.
Somebody asked me, Skywalker Destroyer 52, Yo, Bonte, how you feel about Farhan's extension? Not good. But it is what it is. Got to be open-minded about it. He's here through 2026. Bo Mel and Farhan to the rescue.
I mean, does anybody have a choice?
We don't have a choice. Don't have a choice, Skywalker. So I feel indifferent. Sacktown KC, we'll see you tomorrow. Actually, we'll talk to you tomorrow. Kings and Warriors. It'll be NBA Finals game 1 for the Kings. It'll be regular season game number 2 for the Warriors. Sacktown KC just texted. Should I read that text?
Yeah, I would like you to, because I'm kind of with him.
Part of me wants Kyle to eventually get fired so you guys, Bay Area media fans, can quit blaming him for everything that ever goes wrong with this franchise.
I mean, he's the reason we're relevant.
He is. He's also part of the reason why we don't have a Super Bowl.
Yeah. Look, if they come out of this era with this core of guys and they don't have a Super Bowl, fine. Make all the sweeping indictments you want. They've gotten as far as you can get without winning the damn thing.
He's a very good coach.
I mean, there's 28 teams in the league that would die to trade places with them.
But here's the problem. He's a very good coach that, unfortunately, we can't criticize because people think we hate him.
We criticize him daily.
I think he's a very good coach. Let's go to David Lombardi, who's a very good beat writer for The Athletic, covers the 49ers. We love having David Lombardi on the Morning Roast here on 95.7 The Game. And boy, it was all good just a couple weeks ago, David. All good just a couple weeks ago. Now the Niners have lost 2 straight, and it sounds like they're going to have to go to Sam Darnold. So before we get to Sam Darnold, Brock Purdy, after the game Monday night, you're pretty astute. I'm guessing you were in Minnesota.
Yes.
Did you guys ever assume, did you have any speculation whatsoever that Brock Purdy was concussed?
Well, when you're at the game, you're not watching the TV replay as closely. You've been at these games. It's a little trickier. You're watching what's on the field, and I think that the helmet-to-helmet hit on the sneak was very visible on one of the TV replays. But, I'm glancing up and looking at the replay, but the last thing that I needed to see was a replay of the quarterback sneak at the time because they had picked up the first down, and normally that's kind of a ho-hum play, right? So, I didn't know that there had been a helmet-to-helmet hit. I did think that the throw to Juwan Jennings coming off of that hit was exceptionally bad considering how good Purdy had been leading up to that point. And I just kind of figured it got away from him. I don't know if the bad throw was caused by the fact that he had suffered a head injury, or at least that's what it seemed like. They haven't confirmed that the concussion came from that play, but Kyle Shanahan said that he would guess that it came from that play. Anyway, that was the only thing that was awry, was how bad that throw was compared to all of his previous throws. So, no, in the post game, I didn't have an inkling that he had suffered a concussion. The 49ers apparently didn't either, and they didn't. It was on the flight where the symptoms first started showing up. So it wasn't something that we dealt with until later in the week.
I mean, the guy was awesome. Awesome. I mean, for long stretches, and was just brilliant against the Dallas Cowboys. Yes, Cleveland wasn't his best game. And the fourth quarter, whether it was after the hit, because of the hit, irrelevant to the hit, or whatever that happened to him on the sneak, those weren't great throws, right? And Cleveland wasn't a great game, but he's been great. Like, I think everybody's really putting the cart before the horse regarding Sam Darnold. He's going to play this weekend, and we'll get to Darnold in a second. This is still Brock Purdy's job, right?
He's the most efficient quarterback in football right now. I mean, these conversations are ridiculous. He's literally number one. I don't care if you want to have a scheme argument, a talent argument. You guys know where I stand on this. Every single quarterback in the history of football is a system quarterback. It's a team sport, right?
That's so bad, yeah.
They brought Sam Darnold in to give them a higher floor at backup. Kyle Shanahan truly believed that Darnold within this system could limit the mistakes that he had historically made and give him a Trey Lance, talented, but they felt that the floor was too low. As a young quarterback, they could no longer work with a developmental project. That's just what they thought. You know, a lot of people are going to get mad about that, but that's just telling people what the 49ers thought in this situation. And they're looking at Darnold as a guy that could raise that floor. They're not looking at Darnold as a starting quarterback. They're looking at him as a backup in a league where only 7 QBs last season played the entire season. So it's more likely than not that you're going to have to turn to your backup at some point. And right now it looks like the 49ers might have to turn to their backup to win a game against the Cincinnati Bengals. That doesn't mean anything about Brock Purdy's job status as QB1 in the future, because he's literally been the most efficient quarterback in football so far this year, despite the fact that he didn't have a great game against Cleveland and despite the fact that he had a poor finish for whatever reason. And we've been talking about the potential reasons against Minnesota. But you're right, Joe. He was awesome for 55 minutes of that game. And I don't think that people are talking about that enough. There was not a single blitz that he did not handle well from a Minnesota team that blitzed more than any other team in the league. I mean, it was cool to watch. I was sitting back there, and he was carving up every single blitz, intermediate throws, short throws. It was really fun to watch. But then the finish absolutely happened, and we can talk about that forever.
Yeah, we can talk about it forever. David Lombardi here on the Morning Roast on 95.7 The Game. All right, it's Sam Darnold time, and this is a guy they signed on the second day of free agency, and I knew that once they signed him that early in free agency, he was going to get a shot to at least be the backup. Whether or not he played during the regular season, I thought that was a great chance. Now he gets a chance against a good Bengals team, a good defense here. You do give up a lot of yards on the ground, but Bengals are buttoned up here. What should we expect from Sam Darnold in this situation to help the Niners snap a 2-game losing streak?
Cincinnati does not have a good run defense this year, and Cincinnati doesn't blitz nearly as much as Minnesota. So heading into the game against the Vikings, we knew that the Vikings blitzed more with Brian Flores than any other team in the NFL, and that included run blitzes as well. So I had an inkling that Brock Purdy was going to have to throw the ball a lot just because they were going to bring so many guys down to the box. They were going to aggressively try to cut off the head of the 49ers run game. Cincinnati doesn't play the same way. Cincinnati's going to drop back in coverage a little bit more. And I think that, with that, I think that's affected run defense this year. I think that's why they haven't been as good against the run because they're not nearly as aggressive in trying to stop it at the line of scrimmage. So I think that the 49ers will have to run more in this football game. They're going to have to try to take advantage of a defense that's ranked number 27 in run defense efficiency. And in general, the duty of the 49ers quarterback is to oversee a balanced operation. So if it's the two-shell coverage, both of those safeties are playing further off the line of scrimmage, you have to pull the right check to the line of scrimmage to make sure you're in the correct run play. If one of those safeties starts creeping up toward the line, you better beat that defense with your arm. And that's what Brock Purdy was doing for the majority of the game against Minnesota. So if it's Sam Darnold having to play, he's going to have the same
David,
as Purdy.
David, we're going to have to cut you off for a second. We're having some audio troubles, so just hang tight with us. We're going to come right back to you because it's clicking. Something's going on with our new studio.
So we're tapped. We're tapped by the FBI. We'll ask David about the defense.
Tapped by the FBI.
We are. I think the Niners are tapping.
The Federals went ahead and bought Nextel.
It's Shanahan. He's tapping our phones. Nobody wants Shanahan. Let me get something straight here.
What's that?
About the head coach of the 49ers. I'm so happy that Shanahan is our coach. I really am. He's one of the best head coaches in football. But it doesn't mean we can't critique him. It doesn't mean we can't be critical of some of his play calls or some of his podium games. It's what we do.
I mean, we critique
Walsh,
the ones we
George
love
Seifert.
more than the ones we don't.
Steve Kerr's won 4 championships. We'll critique him every single day. It's just what it is. So my critique with Shanahan this week is you really had, like, Wilks called a dumb blitz. We all agree. We talked about it ad nauseum. We talked about it incessantly on Tuesday. It was a terrible blitz before the half. Terrible. But I see coaches, for the most part, when the assistant makes a bad play, hey, you take him to the side behind the scenes. You don't do that. You don't air that for the media. Like, to me, this was out of bounds. It really was. Here's what Shanahan said about the zero blitz.
Yeah, I think he knows. You guys, I think, talk to him tomorrow. He knows he messed up on that call. I have no problem with zero blitzes, especially when people need a lot of yards. You know, if you need to get 20 yards to kick a field goal, I have no problem with the zero blitz. But I do when there's 16 seconds left, and that's where he lost track. There was no necessary need for that just because of the time. I have no problem with the call. But, I mean, I have no problem with that play call, but when it's that time, you can't do that. It's not an option.
Why not just say, hey, you know what, Steve Wilks had a bad play call. We talked about it. Next question.
Well, let me ask you a different question. Why not, since you're on the headset and you're not talking to Purdy, he admitted he doesn't talk to Purdy.
Which is kind of wild.
In between offensive sets, right? If you're on the headset and you hear that being called and you're able to click in, why did you not say, no, we're not doing that?
Don't know.
Am I wrong? We've done that with the head coach in Atlanta when Kyle was the OC and how the head coach should have overrode that. Mm-hmm. So in this circumstance, I think we're misplacing it. Like, yes, I get your frustration on calling him out. What I would say to Kyle is, why didn't you get in the headset and change the play call if you didn't like it? Or demand something different?
Niners have a timeout left? I don't recall. Did they have a timeout left in that situation?
That I don't know.
Got to go back and watch. I'll pull it up in a second, see if they had a timeout left.
Is that a fair criticism?
Yeah, it is.
Or question?
It is. All right, let's get David back.
Let's ask David the same question.
Dave, go ahead, ask David.
David, the Steve Wilks situation at the end, and we'll get to Bonte's got an issue with him calling him out the way that he did. I feel like it's Shanahan telling us that Steve Wilks is on notice here, and the players are a little disgruntled. But do we know if Shanahan has ever overridden one of either, whether it's Saleh, D'Amico, whoever? He's on that headset. He's not sitting there talking to the quarterback when the defense is out there. He's watching, and he's able to communicate. Why didn't he adjust that play call if he didn't like it at the end, right before half?
Well, the Vikings did not have a timeout. I heard you guys.
Did the Niners?
No. Did the Niners have a timeout?
Did the 49ers? I think they did. Yes, but
I'm looking now. It looks like they had one timeout left, maybe two.
Yeah, they had one, but the reason it was a bad call was because the Vikings didn't have one.
Right.
Then if you have a safety deep, or two safeties deep, they didn't have anybody deep because they had Gibson step up and on that play and cover the underneath route. If you have somebody deep and you make the tackle, then the clock probably runs out on the half. So the risk reward was just way off on the play. So anyway, to answer the headset question, there's a ton of chaos at that time in the headset. So at some level, you've got to trust your guy to make that call. And Kyle Shanahan, through the entire era here, from Robert Saleh to D'Amico Ryans to Steve Wilks, he's made it clear that the defensive coordinator is the final voice on defense. He doesn't try to undercut him during the game. I mean, it was one of those situations where that could get really, really messy if he's having to correct calls as they're being made in the heat of battle.
Well, I would say in that situation, look, again, if it's such an egregious call in that situation, given where they were on the field, given all the circumstance, end of half, it's a unique opportunity. That's why I'm just asking out loud. I thought it was a horrific call, David.
It was. What do you do? Look, how about this? We all believe it was a terrible call, but overall, because nobody was really complaining about Steve Wilks before the Cleveland game, they start hearing, okay, Steve Wilks' defense in Cleveland, even though they only gave up 19 points, they gave up 4.7 yards on the ground in that game against Cleveland, against the third-string quarterback in P.J. Walker. How would you evaluate Steve Wilks' job through the first 7 weeks of the football season, David?
Well, here's this from putting some context on Kyle Shanahan's calling Wilks out. I think that if you look at the full press conference yesterday in context, obviously Shanahan says that Wilks didn't make the right call there, and I think anybody with two eyes could see that. But he, also in a way, if you look at that in full context, he tempers the criticism of Steve Wilks a little bit, because he says, yeah, it was just one call. He messed up on that call. He knew that it was a bad call. We're moving on. And I think in the big picture, what the 49ers need right now from Steve Wilks is just for him to find that happy balance between aggressiveness and, the times when you have to be a little bit more cautious defensively. Because early in the season, some of the criticism had been, I remember the first half of the game against the Rams, that the 49ers were playing stuff a little bit too soft. Mm-hmm. And then in the second half, Wilks made some good adjustments. There was a little bit of a man coverage, aggressiveness on the back end that actually helped unlock the 49ers pass rush. Mm-hmm. Now, it wasn't just the play to Jordan Addison at the end of the first half. There was also a screen pass earlier in the first half where the 49ers ran an aggressive blitz that completely
on 3rd and 13.
Outboxed. Yeah. It was a third down that completely got outboxed. Also, the run defense has been bad. The run defense has been ranked near the bottom of the league for the 49ers so far.
How much of that is on Wilks and not just the players themselves?
It's a combination of both, because like I'm saying, some of these screen passes, some of these blitzes have fed right into the screen passes. There's been a little too much aggressiveness in certain, basically he hasn't picked his spots as well as he can so far. But I will say that in previous years, and I could think back to 2021 or as recently as last year, there were struggles from D'Amico Ryan early in the season both of those regards, and everybody's talking about that. It takes a defensive coordinator, especially one that's getting used to a new team, time to find that happy zone, that balance between cautiousness and aggressiveness. And I think that, the totality of Shanahan's comments yesterday made it clear that he thinks that Steve Wilks is working toward that. And, I just think it's patently obvious that was a bad call at the end of the first half. And, I don't think it would do anybody any good if Shanahan just pretended that it wasn't, So, I think everybody saw that and he said that. And I think Shanahan's fairly blunt in these situations. So I just do think that we need to remember that at this point last year, the 49ers had gotten completely lit up by the Chiefs. It was the worst defensive performance in the Shanahan era. And D'Amico Ryans was the coordinator. And D'Amico Ryans ended up being a hell of a good defensive coordinator. So let's just wait and see how this plays out.
All right, David, you're right about that. We'll get you on next week with a better phone line. Big game here. Big game against the Cincinnati Bengals. We'll probably see Sam Darnold. Real quick, David, I got to ask you. Trent Williams, in or out the lineup this Sunday? What do you think?
It sounds like they're expecting him to play. Shanahan said that he thought he was going to be back at practice today. So we'll see. And that's going to be big because Trey Hendrickson lines up 100% of the time against left tackle. Jalen Moore played well, but Danielle Hunter lines up on the right side most of the time. So Colton McKivitz is the one who had a rough go of it. This week, the left tackle is going to be tested by Trey Hendrickson.
Boy, Sam Hubbard, Trey Hendrickson, the Bengals coming in with Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase. It's going to be a fascinating game at Levi's. David, we'll see you on Sunday, man. Keep up the great work.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys.
Thanks, David.
Anytime. David Lombardi from The Athletic here on 95.7 The Game.